and I have the pleasure and the honor of interviewing Sherry Hunter. Sherry is a journalist who has written and produced for TV news affiliates WNEM in Saginaw, Michigan, and WDIV in Detroit. She's written for several daily newspapers, including the Oakland Press, and she's published many short stories. Her story has been featured in Essence, Vanity Fair, HuffPost, The Hollywood Reporter, and the National Geographic. Sherry is the author of Daring to Live, which chronicles the sudden death of her husband and how, together with her girlfriends, they call themselves the Dare Divas. Sherry went on a soul quest to help herself heal, and in doing so, now she is on a mission to help all of us push past our comfort zone, put wellness at the forefront, and live life to the fullest. Take a listen to my interview with Sherry, the diva who dared to live.
Yes.
We both went to CTAB. I went to Christian Tabernacle as well. And I remember when I first joined, Pastor Mormon was talking about the amazing life. He was like, amazing has a dual meaning. It's like amazing, fantastic. And then it is like jumping off the side of a mountain and going like, ah. So share with us about the sudden loss of your husband.
Well, when Menard died, it was such a shock because it was a shock, but it wasn't in the sense that we knew he had a heart condition. We There's a sore on his leg, and it wouldn't go away, so I had him go to the dermatologist. As it turns out, it wasn't anything cancerous, which was great, but it was connected to his heart. So he went to the cardiologist, did all the necessary exams, was given the okay. A year to the date after that visit with the cardiologist, he died suddenly at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, right next to me in our bed. So he was trying to wake and never could. So as you can imagine, that was just a shock to me. And I think anytime you weather anything, whether it's a loss of a family member, no matter if you see it coming, it always is something that just takes your breath away.
I love what Brene Brown talks about. Brene Brown talks about the messy middle, because we oftentimes hear people say this tragedy that they experienced, and then they're jumping off of, out of airplanes, and they say this is how you get there, and we leave out the messy middle. Initially, when you have a spouse, die beside you, what was your state of mind, in the first few months, or, paint the messy middle for us, if you will.
Brene Brown, because I think that is so accurate, is that we don't share all those things because we don't think people really want to hear all those things because they really are messy. For me, the big surprise was that even though I was a strong, confident, capable woman, I had really relied on my husband for so many years. So I kind of went into a tailspin. I, was initially prescribed Xanax with my doctor, and that worked. I mean, it worked fabulously, but I could see myself going down that dark path, and my doctor did too, so he cut me off. So then I was like, okay, I was still not quite myself. So, I was drinking a little bit and then drinking a lot. And then you're like, oh my gosh, how am I in this place? Because as a woman who was involved actively in her church, I should not be acting this way. What does a Christian look like? And for me, I wasn't acting like that thing. So there was also that shame associated with it. It was just me spiraling, basically. And I think I shocked myself. I shocked myself that I wasn't as strong, as powerful, as capable as I really thought I always had been.
Mm. And that's keeping it real, But I love that you said you have to have the gumption to transcend the fall, grief, disappointment, and still realize that you either need to hold on to your wellness or be actively in pursuit of it. What had you realize I'm falling, falling, falling?
So for me, I think, I had a couple of series of aha moments. One, when I was when I wasn't taking it so well, when I was drinking, you know, it was one of those, my job, you know, they were like, okay, you know, you got to get this together. Right. I mean, they're sympathetic, but then they're still paying me to do a role. And then you know, my children, you know, the last thing you want to have happen is like, oh my God, why did you let the, you know, crazy parent stay and then you let the good one go, right? So there's that, there's that, you know, that shame with dealing with, you know, trying to raise children through this grief. So that was an aha moment. And then, you know, for me, it really was, you know, as you had shared with about CTAP, being actively still pursuing it, even though I felt in some ways that God was absent. Like I know He was there, but I was like, okay, I'm feeling lonely here. Where are you? But still seeking that, still seeking it, needing it. And so those three things, those three aha moments really were pivotal for me. And I think you
Yeah.
have to have those aha moments so that you don't jump off the cliff. So you have to come to a realization, okay, I'm in this dark place. What are my options? And therefore I had to look at some hard options. I needed help. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out for help. For me, that was therapy. It was my friends. It was my faith. Those were the things that really helped greatly.
Navigate us to the Dear Divas. I just blinked. All I knew is I knew my little Sherry, and she was working on writing books and writing stories and getting a certain word count. The last I left you, you were working on word count. Like, I'm going to do this many words a day, and this is what I'm going to do. And I mean, I knew you had been doing a lot of writing and such. And all of a sudden I saw you everywhere. I think you had a National Geographic article and it just took off. So tell us how you went from, the darkness to seeing the light, like you said, faith and the therapy and your friends, but paint the picture of how Dare Divas came to life.
Well, it really just came about. There's four of us. So there is Anjanette, Brenda, Mia, and then myself. And it was just, we were serving in church together, really simple. And then one of the ladies, Mia, came to church and said, let's go whitewater rafting. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Right. And this was actually before my husband passed that this all formed. It was this, I think that was so significant in that, the world, God brings to you people before you actually really, really understand the significance of their time with you, right? So these were women I had met in church. We were serving together. We went on a whitewater rafting trip. And then from there, it went on and on. The significance for me was really in that I felt alive when I was doing those dares. The planning of them, we talk and we giggle and we're planning it. That is so exciting. And then the execution of it, and then the memories, the pictures. We always put together a album of the experience. I've been whitewater rafting, zip lining. While we were whitewater rafting, we jumped off a cliff into the water. That was kind of fun. We have driven NASCARs. We have hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. We have learned to drive motorcycles. So it was quite a bit. And I loved it. I was scared. Oh, skydiving. We went skydiving. So, even though I had lost a lot, there was still a lot I still had. And so it was a matter of being grateful. So that's how the Dare Divas came about. That one moment of fun that kept going and going.
Wow. So then you're saying that when you lost your husband, that was one of the ropes you grabbed onto, was when you felt most alive. I find that very interesting because what I'm noticing as of late is we have a choice when we're hurt. And I've been through my share of it. It's not the day to talk about it, but when you're hurt like that, you have to make a decision. It's going to bring tears to my eyes right now. Do I want to invite people to my pity party? Like, we kind of like it. You know what I mean? It's like you want to talk about it because you want to invite people and send invitations and, get out the fold out chairs. Or do you truly want to live? It truly is a dare. It is a truth or dare. Are you going to face the truth and dare? It's not truth or dare. It's truth and dare. You know what I mean? Dare to live. I love that. So you made a choice, no pity party, no inviting or solo pity party. I'm going to live. And I find that so amazing. And tell me about when you told your family, I'm going to go on a 65 day cruise by myself to Africa and Asia. Was this afterwards as well?
Yeah. So what ended up happening, my kids had gone off to college shortly. Well, the way it worked out, their father died right before they were going off to college. And for me, I was like, I need to be home in case they need me. Well, they're having a great time away at college. They're doing everything, enjoying themselves, and they're never coming home. We talked, but I was like, you know what? This is my window. You know, I I really hesitated doing it. I was worried about doing it. My mother was aging, but as it turns out, my kids were healthy. My mother was healthy. I was healthy. It was my window. And sometimes, when you get those windows, we hesitate. And I'm so grateful that I didn't. So I did go, and everybody was, of course, concerned. What could happen? All the worst case scenarios. Thankfully, with technology, I was able to talk to my kids and my mom, readily. I had insurance in case anything happened. I'd jump on a plane and I'll come back home. But it was an opportunity that I really was afraid to take because all the what ifs, but all the what ifs didn't happen. I went there, I took the time that I needed to take care of my soul, to kind of think about what it is that I wanted to do next. What are some of the things I needed to deal with my finances, some of the things I needed to do with, making sure that my children were well taken care of, all the things I knew Manar would want me to address in his absence. It was just time to really give myself time to think.
And what's not going to translate on the podcast is just your way your smile lights up every time you talk about it. Seriously, it's like from the inside out smile. This is not a woman that's pushing through to be happy. A lot of us do that on a daily basis. I see genuine joy in your eyes and in your smile, and it's just radiating, and just speak to that a little bit, because you went on a soul quest. I can see it from the inside out, Sherry. I really can.
Yeah, I know everybody can't go away for 65 days. So I get that, and even in my book, I speak of how, I don't know if you saw the movie The War Room, where someone just takes a room inside their house and they just use that time to pray, to meditate, to kind of, speak into the universe what it is they want to do with their next. And so for me, it was an opportunity to kind of speak to what was next, because I think that, it's so easy to get stuck into that place of misery, right? You're miserable. And you don't really know exactly how to get out of it. And one of the things that was kind of annoying was when people were like, snap out of it. Well, it's not as easy to do that. And even when I speak about being daring to live, I know that it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. But, our wellness is so important to our existence. Living and not being well. You know how many people are sick and they're in their bodies, but they're not well. They may not be mentally well, physically well. Wellness is so impactful to our existence. And so doing anything you can and to get yourself in a state of good health, I sincerely encourage it. However you can do that, move towards that.
Speak to those people like me who we don't have an adventurous spirit. I envy those who do. I stopped getting on roller coasters about 15 or 20 years ago. I didn't like that feeling in my stomach and I'm stomping on my feet and I'm holding my breath. I have zero sense of adventure. But I was so excited to read about you. You didn't start out adventurous, and it was so funny that the four ladies don't even know how to swim when you were going, water rafting. So share with me, encourage those of us that don't have that adventure. How do we dare to live like that?
Yeah, well, as it turns out, I think I may have been one of the only ones who didn't know how to swim. I think a couple of the girls did know how to swim. I know I didn't. But, here's the thing. I know everybody's not going to want to skydive, right? Honestly, I don't really want to do it again either. That was scary, right? I know there's going to be people who don't like to, hike Mount Kilimanjaro. They have no desire to do those things. But here's the thing. We each have something that scares us a little. There's something that's deep inside of us that we always wanted to do. And it could be anything. It could be something adventurous. It could be having those tough conversations with a friend. It could be, you're afraid to go to the doctor because you're afraid of what the doctor might say. We all have something that scares us a little bit, but those are the very things we need to move towards. So when I'm talking about daring to live, yes, each dare was an adventure, but I also had to learn to apply that same spirit to myself at home, right? Because now I have to be a big girl. I have to learn how to manage, my finances so that what I have won't dwindle. I have to be able to be conscious of my tongue, the things that I say and how I say them. All of those things are part of being daring, but they're not necessarily adventurous, but they're very important things that we need to be conscious of and sometimes be able to reflect and understand of how we can be our best selves.
So everyday adventure. Every day can be an adventure if you step out your comfort zone and do the things that are causing you to have those butterflies in your stomach or that fearful. You talk about stepping out of the comfort zone, how getting out of your comfort zone is really what heals you. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so, what's so interesting about when people talk about their comfort zones, it's that place where, you could just sit and reside and you're like, this is good, right? I'm feeling cozy, there's no danger here. And I get it. We all want the idea of the safety and protection. That's the place everybody should be in their lives where they feel safe and protected. But we also know that there's those times, those things that if you go outside your comfort zone, there's where sometimes the magic happens. Those times when you are wanting to go and earn a degree, but there's so many things that are making it impossible. There's finances, there's time, and then there's those things that sometimes outside your comfort zone where I really want to own a home, but then there's all these limitations. That's the reason why the comfort zone is such a great place, because outside the comfort zone are all these limitations, all these reasons why you can't have those very things that you really want in your life.
Yeah.
And so what it does is it forces us to have this conversation with ourselves and saying, what is it that I really want? Before I leave this planet, we all are going to leave here. What are those things that I really want? Because I think so often we want them, but we don't want to live outside this area of protection and comfort. And so when you go outside that comfort zone and you are able to master, you are able to somehow find the money you need to go to school. You're able to take a part-time job in order to, travel and do those things you want. That's where the magic happens, right? There's this Zen diagram with all these circles and, there's the circles and they kind of intertwine. And, in one, there's safety, one, there's money, one, there's protection. But you can't always have them all at one time, right? You have to sometimes break out of that in order to get to what you really want. And I think that's so with life too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always be in that area of comfort.
I love what Sherry is saying, that it's life is messy. Life is not a beautiful circle all packed up in a bow. And when it sounds like when what Sherry is saying is when we get out of our comfort zone, that is where life is. Life is on the edge of that circle and that comfort zone. And if I was to really get deep and really think about what Sherry is saying, you have to first give up the fear of dying.
Mm,
And then when you're not afraid of, let's just say, the worst thing happening, then I can live.
yeah. When I was on all these different excursions, there is that fear of dying. You can die from skydiving. You can die from cliff jumping. When I went away by myself to Africa, you can die, if you're in the wrong circumstance, right? I mean, there's always this fear. I think what you said is so true. I think there's that fear of the unknown and what would that mean to my existence, because you can die. But, as we've seen in the world that we live in, you could die anywhere. You could die going to a concert, you can die going to school. Unfortunately, these horrible things happen all around us. But we can't let that stop us from moving towards those things that excite us, that makes us radiate with joy. So I'm so grateful for my faith for that.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us about Daring to Live coming out in February of 2020. Tell us about the book and what we can expect.
Okay, well, it covers the antics of me and my girlfriend. So it's 10 chapters and it talks about those 10 dares, but it's much deeper than the dares, I like to think. It really talks about, those times when you have lost something and you've lost someone, or you've went through something horrific, and how it changes you, basically. And what I learned about myself doing each of those dares, and reflecting back on the dares as I was weathering grief. And that's what the book is really about. I'm choosing not to be crippled. I'm making a choice to understand God better, myself better, my friends better, and try my best to do the best I can. And that's what I'm hoping that everybody will have this as a takeaway, that it's not looking at us girls as being necessarily super women or doing anything they can't do, but looking at it as a way of saying to themselves that, I have a choice in taking various steps in order to make myself well.
And you have such a humble spirit. You couldn't swim to all the way to, whitewater rafting, regular girl, just,
Very
like Jenny from the block, girl.
I am a byproduct of, my mother was a janitor. My grandmother was a janitor. My great grandmother was a janitor. I've never known my father. I wouldn't know him in the street if I met him face to face. So, I really do come from humble stock. And I think that that's also what I'm hoping that people are encouraged by, is that you don't have to come from means in order to live your dream. I really hope that that's what people will see as well, because Lord knows it's been a journey.